class, and welcome to our 2.3 Constant of Proportionality notes. We're going to start off with a real-world problem so that you guys can understand why knowing something known as the constant of proportionality is important. So here we go. At Walmart, Miss Halls bought 17 apples for $4.25. Miss Fersner brought 10 apples for $2.50. Did they pay the same amount for each apple? So based on the question here, we're trying to figure out or find the cost per apple. Okay? So remember what we talked about when we started talking about solving proportional problems. The first thing you're going to have to do is write down the word ratio. So let's do that now. Since we're looking at the cost per apple, it's only right that we set this up. Cost over apple. If we think about what Miss Halls bought, we can write $4.25 over 17. When we divide this, that's going to be equal to 25 cents. Now let's do the same for Miss Fersner's amount. If Miss Fersner paid $2.50 for 10 apples, then we would set that up like this. When we divide it, we would also get 25 cents. So as we can see, they both paid 25 cents per apple, which means that both of these ratios are proportional, which means that there is a constant of proportionality. So in other words, this is a unit rate and a constant of proportionality, which means that they're basically the same thing. Now let's define formally what the constant of proportionality is. A constant of proportionality is a unit rate in any proportional relationship. So remember that a unit rate is essentially when we have any number over 1. Okay? And remember that a proportional relationship means that we have two fractions or two ratios that are equal to each other when they are simplified. So that means if we can find a unit rate within a proportional relationship, we've found the constant of proportionality. Now there are two equations that we can use sometimes when solving for the constant of proportionality. For the formula, K, which means the same thing as constant, equals y over x. Another variation of this equation is y equals kx. Now, I know you may be thinking that constant starts with a C, but in math world, constant is represented by the letter K. Now, let's talk about finding the constant proportionality when it comes to a table. In this table, I can see that I have corresponding x and y values. Remembering my equation, K equals y over x, essentially what I'm going to do is choose any y and its corresponding x, and I'm going to plug those numbers here, and then I'm going to solve. If I end up with a unit rate or a situation where I have the numerator over the denominator 1, then that means I found the constant of proportionality. Now, the easiest thing to do would be to start with the smallest numbers. So I'm going to start with these two. So when I plug those in, K would equal y over x, which means 4 over 1. And so my constant of proportionality is 4. Now we can do the same thing down here. I'm going to set up my equation, K equals y over x. I'm going to choose my smallest numbers when it comes to this table. My smallest x and y value here is going to be 2 and 24. So remember, it's y over x. So I'm going to write 24 over 2. I know that I can simplify both of these by 2 because that's what my divisibility rule says. And when I do that, I end up with 12 over 1, which is the same thing as 12. So my constant of proportionality is 12. When you're trying to look at an equation itself and find the constant of proportionality, it really helps to understand the constant of proportionality equations. Remember, one of our variations was y equals kx. Remember, if k is the constant, then that means that anything that's in front of the x would be the constant of proportionality. So if we look at this problem, y equals 5x, the constant of proportionality here is 5. Okay? And if we look at this problem, the constant of proportionality, or the number holding the place of k here, is 1/4. Now this is only when we are solving for the constant of proportionality within an equation, when we're just looking at an equation. Now let's go to the next step. Now, when we're looking at graphs and we're asked to find the constant of proportionality within a graph, you always want to choose a point. Remember, a point consists of an x and a y, where they intersect on the graph, to find the ratio. Then you're going to solve for the constant. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger and then solve with you. If I look at this graph, the first intersection that I see is 1, 2. Okay? So I'm going to plug that point into my equation. Remember, my equation is k constant equals y over x. Okay? So I know that x is first and y is second in my point, so I'm going to plug it in. 2 over 1, which equals 2. That means that this graph's constant of proportionality is 2. And you would solve it like this for all graph problems. Now, what I want you to do is flip on the back, and we're going to solve some practice word problems. Let's look at this first problem together. So it says, I walked 2 miles in 30 minutes. What is the constant of proportionality, and how far can I expect to walk in 90 minutes? So we have two questions here. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set up what this looks like in word form. What does this ratio look like in word form? So I am comparing miles per minute. All right? So it says I walked 2 miles in 30 minutes. So in order to find the constant of proportionality, remember that's the same thing as the unit rate, all I'm going to do is divide. And when I divide, I'm going to get kind of a funky number. If I round that number, it will round to 0.0667. But if you look at your calculator, if you put it in, you will understand that this is a repeating decimal. The reason why we're doing a problem like this is so that you can understand that not all problems are going to come out in crisp, clean, simple numbers. Sometimes you're going to end up with repeating decimals in real life, but that's okay. Now that we found what the constant of proportionality is, now we can answer this second question. It says, how far can I expect to walk in 90 minutes? Remember what this number means. This number means that we can go 0.0667 miles in 1 minute. So if I want to go figure out how far I can walk in 90 minutes, the only thing I'm going to do is multiply this number times 90 minutes. And that is going to give me approximately 6 miles. Okay? So, my constant of proportionality is here, and I can expect to walk 6 miles in 90 minutes. Now, the rest of the problems are going to be a little different. Some may be similar, some may be different, but I want you to apply some of the things that we've learned in class to solve the rest of the problems. If you get stuck, don't mind going back in your notes and looking for help, and when you're finished, you can check your answers on the link on the task sheet. See ya!